Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's final video. So we're going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's final video. Day 10 is going to take us to the 19th of June, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with extended GFS and ECM ensembles, which runs around a couple of weeks. We're going to have a look at CFS V2 at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks, which will take us into the early part of July. I'll get on with that for you in a moment. Just to say that the first release today was our 7 AM upload, and we also released USA forecast as well. So check out those two if you would like to do that. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much everybody for doing this, and yeah, drop a comment as well. Let us know what you think about this and all of the videos. Right, so we're going to begin this one looking at the Chocolate Atlantic. Now, it's been a bit of a puzzle what's going on with model output over the past few days. There's been a lot of uncertainty within the model output, and I've been sort of scratching my head wondering what is causing this flopping and flip-flopping and chopping changing within the model output. This time of year isn't normally a time you associate with a great deal of uncertainty. You know, later on in the summer into early autumn around September, that tends to be a more uncertain time due to developments in the tropical Atlantic a lot of the time. At the moment, the tropical Atlantic is relatively quiet, but actually the model output is sort of picking up on disturbances that I think could be having an impact on the broader model output at the moment. So this is for today. This is Wednesday, 12th of June, from the latest GFS 6Z reading. So it's generally relatively quiet through the tropical Atlantic. There is some low pressure over towards Africa, but not, you know, a tropical disturbance area, and we've actually got some ridging around Bermuda and extending down towards Florida, for example. All very typical of the time of the year. Right, but let's run through. So keep an eye on the eastern coast of America. Have an area of low pressure developing there on Friday. I don't think it's a tropical storm, but it is a disturbance area. It's in the subtropical Atlantic, and then another one sort of follows it from the Carolina coast and moves out into the Atlantic. So quite a big area of low pressure there off the east coast of America through the weekend. Again, it's not a tropical storm, it's not a hurricane, but it is a disturbance area. It's probably having a bit of a knock-on effect on some of the model output. And it does actually become quite a significant area of low pressure. It pushes northwards then as we go through the course of the weekend. So, of course, how the model output deals with that area of low pressure, you know, is going to cause a little bit of uncertainty and confusion. So that's probably the first thing that's causing uncertainty. Like for the weekend or into next weekend. It does, though, this area of low pressure will eventually be strong enough and deep enough to change the pattern for the UK, but more about that a little bit later on. Now, keep an eye on the tropical Atlantic. Again, not all that much going on, but keep a close eye on the Gulf of Mexico. Notice that little area of low pressure just there. What happens as we go through next week is that we start to get a disturbance area developing. This is Friday next week, 18th June. Start to get an area of low pressure disturbance area at this point developing in the Gulf of Mexico. That starts to push north through the Gulf of Mexico and develops into quite a significant system. That is probably a tropical storm and or hurricane there. By the 18th of June. It's very, very, very early to be seeing that kind of development, but it is a significant system that's pushing northwards through the Gulf towards the Gold Coast. Certainly a tropical storm, possibly, could reach hurricane status, going down to 988 millibars, so it's a very deep area of low pressure. And again, this will have wider knock-on effects on the overall model output, how model output is handling this system moving northwards through the Gulf of Mexico over a more extended range. We are now up to 21st of June, 300 hours out, with a very, very significant area of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico heading on to the Gulf Coast of States. And how the model output is handling that development, particularly with GFS, which extends out to this kind of extended range, and the CFS V2 as well, probably. How the model output is going to handle that development through the Gulf of Mexico will probably have wider impacts elsewhere in terms of the rest of the setup over America, and then what's happening in the Atlantic via the jet stream, and so on. So you see how it's all interconnected, and the fact that we are seeing these disturbance areas this early is probably one of the things that's impacting model output, has been impacting model output recently. You see that is probably a tropical storm. It might even be a hurricane moving on into southern parts of America there as we came towards the final week of June. So, yeah, we're off to a very early start to be seeing tropical developments, and I assume that's having a bit of an impact and has been having a bit of an impact on the model output. So I think that could explain at least some of the uncertainty that's been going on. Right, let's have a look at central temperature then. So CT for June is currently standing at 6.1, which is an anomaly of 2.7 degrees above average. That is provisional to yesterday, to the 8th of to the 8th of June. So it's come down that a few days ago, about in the 17s, of course, extraordinarily warm start to June. It has lowered, but it's still well above average, only 3 degrees above average, and it's probably going to rise actually as we go into the weekend, because we are in for a very warm, if not quite hot, weekend, to be honest. But I think we are beginning to firm up now on the idea that as we go into the second half of June, we're probably going to cool things down and maybe turn things more unsettled. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. On London's day, red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for London. So we're starting off, of course, warmer than average, but we're going to stay warm at least into the early to middle part of next week. So up to mid-month, dates on bottom of the chart, of course, up to mid-month, that's 15th June just there. Plain sailing, mostly dry, with, you know, a few showers here and there, but mostly dry and warm, or very warm, or possibly even quite hot. Once you get into the second half of June, though, you see the trend is very much now strongly downwards with the GFS upper air temperatures ensemble. So there are still one or two ensemble members that are keeping things warm. These ones up here, but the trend is very, very clear there, which is to be cooling things down. The white line is the ensemble means that's actually going back to the 30-year average, possibly even slightly under it. Many of the ensemble members are actually going under the 30-year average. All of these here are clustering under the red line. The thing that's keeping the white line, the ensemble mean, you know, close to the 30-year average, is these warmer ensemble members up here, which we can't completely discount, but it does look strongly in favour in terms of GFS ensembles anyway. Looks strongly in favour of a cool down taking place from mid-month onwards, and a change to more unsettled weather as well. So a lot of dry weather coming up to middle of June, and then the second half of June, back come a precipitation spikes, albeit it takes a while to get rain down to the southeast. So not an immediate process to turn very wet, but gradually through the second half of June, it does also things turn more unsettled and cool down quite a lot. Be a very odd situation, because normally June is a warming time of year, so you would expect the second half of June to be hotter than the first half of June. But again, it's been a very strange year all the way along. It looks like we might be doing things topsy-turvy for this June, the wrong way round really, with the first half of June coming out significantly warmer than average, and maybe second half of June coming out cooler, but we'll have to wait and see about that. So the temperature anomaly from the 9th to 17th of June is still holding up above average, so there's enough, you know, days of above average temperatures left to hold this up. If the trend is maintained to cool things down into the second half of June, then we expect these charts to start trending cooler in 2 or 3 days' time. But for the time being, for the moment, the temperature anomaly remains warmer than average. The precipitation anomaly from the 9th to 17th of June remains significantly drier than average in most parts of the country as well. So warm and dry is like the signal for week 1. The change to unsettled and cooler weather is in week 2. Latest wind flow map from earth-nullschool.net shows that we are drawing in southerly to southwesterly winds, so temperatures remain warm and will continue to be warm. In fact, get even warmer as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend. Right, at this point we will put the webcam back on. There we go. And we're going to go through the generic chart. So we're going to start off with the UK Met for Saturday. High pressure reaching in from the Azores into Western Europe on Saturday. Big ridge there on Sunday will give us, away from northern Scotland anyway, where it could still be a little bit cloudy and unsettled, will give us a warm and dry barbecue weekend. Into the part of next week, a weak cold front comes in from the northwest. That will be very, very weak and you know, won't do hardly anything other than bring a little bit of cloud and patchy rain, but it will probably cool things down for the northern half of the country. Still keep that ridge just about hanging on into the south on Tuesday, but you notice this deepening area of low pressure. That's the one that I showed you start of the video coming out of southern America or southeastern America over the weekend. That area of low pressure is like to the south of Greenland on Tuesday as a deepening feature, putting this ridge under further pressure. That's as far as we go to with the UK Met, but if we go any further, we'll probably see this low pressure coming in off the Atlantic through the middle of the second half next week, pushing the ridge southwestwards and starting to turn us rather cooler and a little bit more unsettled. So that's how we go to with UK Met. This is how the GFS midnight rain is looking. Again, high pressure ridging up from the Azores on Saturday. Gives us a mostly dry, fine and very warm day on Sunday. We might get the temperature close to 30 degrees over this weekend in the south. Early next week, we've got a weak cold front coming into the northwest, bringing some showery rain, but the warmth hangs on in the south. Tuesday could be a little bit cooler as the winds turn into the northwest, but still a lot of dry weather. But notice this area of low pressure again, deepening like mad in the North Atlantic. Eventually, that low pressure begins to break down this ridge of high pressure. It's not an immediate process, but by the middle of next week, this is midnight on Thursday, by the middle of next week, that low pressure has broken down the ridge and is starting to push in from the Atlantic, bringing probably the first band of persistent and heavy rain to many parts of the country of the month, certainly the south and the southeast anyway. So by the time we get through to Friday next week, it is all changed. High pressure's gone. Where's it gone? The high pressure has sort of broken into two. Some of it's trying to get up towards Greenland again, and the main portion of it is moving over towards eastern, northeastern parts of Europe. We're back under low pressure by the end of next week. Much cooler winds coming in from the northwest, and obviously much more unsettled as well, with showers, long spells of rain. And that takes up to day 10. Low pressure continue to keep it unsettled then. And that goes on into extended range. We're in a deep area of low pressure there over top of the country on the 22nd of June. Obviously, that will be cool and wet. And as far as we get to, with the GFS midnight run, is to Friday the 25th of June. By the time we're trying to build up a little bit of ridge from the southwest, but it still looks pretty showery and cool at this point. So this is a significant and, quite long-lasting change in the pattern that the GFS is picking up on for next week. This is how the 6 set is looking again. This is very latest, so high pressure ridging up from the southwest on Saturday will give us, wave north Scotland anyway, a barbecue weekend. In terms of next week, the high pressure continues to dominate weather, brings lots of dry weather. Temperatures will cool down a little bit, I think, through the first half of next week, particularly so in the north. Probably still very warm, though, down in the south. Lots of dry weather through Monday and Tuesday. But this low pressure, again, is deepening in the Atlantic by the middle of next week. It's putting the high pressure under pressure, and eventually the low pressure does break down the ridge. So the second half of next week starts to much more unsettled, with low pressure again coming in off the Atlantic, bringing further bouts of rain. Exactly how the ridge breaks down, is subject to a little bit of change here. But the GFS is very, very keen now to break down the ridge and turn things not only more unsettled, but also cooler as well. As we head up to the very end of the GFS 6 run, which is to the 25th of June, again, we're trying to build up some sort of a ridge from the southwest, but it looks like that's going to get flattened off by this next area of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. So the third week of June looking a lot more unsettled and cooler with the GFS model output today, both the operationals and the ensembles. This is how the GM is looking. Again, high pressure ridges up from the southwest into weekend, gives us a barbecue weekend into next week. Temperatures will lower, but still a lot of dry weather through the early part of next week, just freshening up and, feeling a little bit more comfortable probably for many of us. That's Wednesday, so we're still hanging on at midnight on Wednesday in the south, low pressure deepening to northwest Scotland. Does the GM breakdown ridge? Yes, it does. So in comes low pressure through the second half next week. It's perhaps a little bit delayed in breakdown ridge compared to GFS. So how ridge breaks down, as I say, is open to a little bit of a question mark, but it does was over trend is with the GM also to break down ridge and bring low pressure in of the Atlantic. And what about the ECM? The ECM has been tending to be model that's most keen to keep high pressure going through next week. Let's see what the ECM is doing today. So again, we've got this barbecue weekend coming up. Make most of that if that's the kind of thing you enjoy in June. By Tuesday, certain ridge of high pressure, just a little bit cooler, perhaps, especially for northern areas. And then again, you see the ECM is breaking down that ridge in the middle part of next week. So this is what makes me think we have seen a fundamental shift in model output today towards cooler and more unsettled weather next week. The ridge breaks down, even with the ECM, by Wednesday into Thursday. Low pressure is pushing through, and then up to day 10, we're in a different air mass, although there's a little bit of a ridge there just to our southwest, but it's only ahead of this next low in the Atlantic, but we'll almost certainly roll in over the top and bring further unsettled conditions. So this does look as though quite a significant change is about to take place, or will take place next week. It's not about to take place because it's only Wednesday today. So we've got around another week of dry, pretty dry, and at times very warm weather to go. So there's several days, you know, of warm, dry weather still to come. So how the ECM precipitation type forecast is looking based on that ECM run. So today I've got rain in the west, actually, saying it's mostly dry and fine at the moment. We have got rain in the west and the northwest. The trend over coming days will be turn things increasingly dry as high pressure builds up from the south and from the southwest. The weekend looks mostly dry and fine. Early next week also looking mostly dry and fine, just temperatures lower a little bit through the early part of the week. Then gradually through next week it begins to turn more unsettled. So we've got some quite heavy rain here, even in the southeastern corner there, around the middle of next week as we break down that ridge. And then we're going into a more unsettled weather. So very wet weather just to our east there as we run up towards day 10. Right, let's turn webcam off and we will have a look at the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today. So these are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles for day 10 by the Icelandic Met Office. This gets us to the 19th of June. 20 members of the ECM ensemble showing low pressure to our northwest. Income westerly. So obviously that has broken down ridge and is turned more unsettled and cooler as well. That includes the control and the operational run. We've got 16 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure up to Greenland, Iceland. High pressure pulling out into the middle of the Atlantic. High pressure just to our east. This one is probably still just about managing to hold on to higher pressure. But even that one is breaking down ridge. And then this one, 15, have got low pressure more or less over the country just to our north slightly. And income the westerly. So that one also has broken down ridge and turn things more unsettled. In 2 weeks' time, this is the option that we've got. This will get us to the 24th of June. 51 out of 51 members of the ECM ensembles, all of them have high pressure centred in the middle of the North Atlantic. Some higher pressure quite a long way from us to our east. And then through this white area, I assume this is going to be a trough of low pressure, although it does not show blue colours. But as we're between two ridges, you will think that is like a dip in the jet stream within the 500 millibar flow. And so that is probably still quite cool and unsettled, albeit it might be starting to transition back to something a little bit more anticyclonic, who knows. But I think that will probably be a trough of low pressure. Let's try and trace that from day 10. So you see, just beyond day 10, all members of the ECM ensembles then have low pressure just to our north and northwest. I suspect what happens to that low pressure just begins to weaken slightly. But yeah, I think they still like a trough within the 500 millibar flow that we've got through here, albeit a weakening trough, probably. Jet stream doing something a little bit like that. So the ECM ensembles have also shifted to something a bit more unsettled, actually, by day 10. Right, CFS-V2 last year, then we're done. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down to week periods. The first week period takes us from the 9th to the 15th of June. The coming week with CFS has high pressure dominating the weather, so you're going to be dry and very warm for the weekend. All changed to week 2, though. This is a big change on what the CFS was showing just yesterday. This is the 16th to 22nd of June. Low pressure then is in across the west of Europe. High pressure splitting to large area of high pressure then towards Scandinavia and a ridge in the middle of the Atlantic. But this is a trough in the 500 millibar flow across Western Europe and more or less centred over top of the UK and Ireland. So obviously that is a lot cooler and a lot more unsettled. Week 3 begins to take high pressure back into control, though. This is the 23rd, 29th of June. So trough low pressure begins to slip southwards and weakens. The ridge over Scandinavia starts to take over pattern and begins to turn the wind into what could be quite a warm east-southeasterly. I'm going to go through to week 4, which is going to be the 30th of June to the 6th of July, and the CFS is back with high pressure in control of weather centred over the top of the country. So only a very brief interruption to the fine weather with the CFS there for week 2, like the 3rd week of June. And then the last week of June and into the 1st week of July, we're back to high pressure very quickly. However, the caveat with that is that the CFS has not, or even up to yesterday, was not showing low pressure being in control of the weather for the 3rd week of June. So it looks like the CFS has been overplaying the high pressure for next week, along with many of the other models. And so we have to wait and see exactly how long it takes. If the high pressure does break down, you know, how long it takes to get the high pressure back in control of weather. It may come back very quickly, or this could be a significant shift to the summer setup. We shall have to wait and see. Right, so if you enjoyed the video, then please click the special like button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. You don't see future weather content. If you do that, tell your friends, family, everybody else to subscribe. Thank you so much for doing this for GavsWeatherVids. Drop a comment and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. And we are done for today. So it's still going to be loads of dry and warm weather. If that's what you enjoy, and I know reading the comments, a lot of you do enjoy that, then like the next week is going to be mostly fine and warm. Going to get very warm over the weekend, if not perhaps a little bit hot for southern areas. Even to early next week, although the temperature cools down a bit, it is going to stay mostly dry and fine. Any change to unsettled weather is around a week away. So it still has that element of uncertainty too. And although the model output has shifted quite significantly towards a change towards cooler and more unsettled weather for the 3rd week of June overnight and this morning, there is still that element of doubt due to the fact that this is all like a week away. So maybe, maybe models are now overplaying the breakdown, as yesterday it looked like they were overplaying high pressure. We shall see, and all will be revealed in the coming days. So tomorrow we will have the European outlook. We're going to have a 10 to 14 dayer as well. So keep checking back for all of the updates. But for this one, that's all for now. And thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.